How would you like to get grants funding for your business? Lydia Vollmann will tell us how to do it. And what's so special about Lydia is she is a grant strategist, AI consultant, and equity advocate with over 18 years of experience in public funding and disaster recovery. She's a former FEMA executive who managed nearly $18 billion in federal recovery funds, and she now leads Grant Our Community and LV Growth Solutions, helping mission-driven organizations access funding and scale with technology. So, Lydia, tell us about how can entrepreneurs get grants funding for their business. I assume you will be talking about this process in the USA.
AI Superwoman podcast with Lily Patrascu shares the world's most innovative AI tools and processes to go from technophobe to AI pro, attract leads, close sales, automate your business, enhance productivity, and deploy AI agents to do your work.
Yes. So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I have a history of working with grant funding, not only just grant funding, foundational funding, in the federal space, the state space, city, county. And I recently started working more in the nonprofit and the private space. So been helping business owners and nonprofit owners expand their business reach by funding their businesses through grant funding, corporate sponsorships, and other foundational fundings. It does sound difficult, I know, right offhand, but something that I like to teach others and kind of lead with is the integration of AI. We hear so much about AI and we're learning so much about AI, and the integration of AI is very important, especially in the world of grants and growing your business. And it's better to learn AI and integrate it into grant writing world and just growing your business, especially your brand name, and getting that out there. So that is the blueprint of what I've basically built over the last 2 years, integrating AI and becoming a specialist in the grant writing world, as well as the grant management world, integrating AI.
Thank you. So tell us, an entrepreneur who has never sought funding, what would be the first step they would need to do in order to figure out first a grant that is suitable for their business? And what are some tools they can use to make this fast? You did mention AI, but tell us more specifically.
Yeah, definitely. So you want to start with your mission, right? What is your mission? How can your mission help others? So not necessarily start right off with the tools and the things. Do a little bit of soul searching. Look into what it is you want your goals and how do you want to meet those goals. More often than not, grants are meant to help a community grow. Not just the business, but how can the business itself help the community and how will it impact the community surrounding the business? So it's basically, how can you become grant ready? That's the first step that I recommend any business owner take. It's sort of a structure meets soul. Take a look into your soul and then structure what you get out of that look into your soul. That's how you build your tools and your outlook, your mission on how you want to help. Take some keywords from that look into your structure, and that's how you build your structure. You want to be able to research your community that you're helping with your business, create some keywords on what that mission is resolving, what's the need statement, what's the problem statement that you're looking at. And then that's when you can connect with founders or funders that are looking to help solve that very same mission. So definitely the tool is what helps you implement that mission, and your soul is what gets you to answer the questions of the need and the community.
Thank you. Let's take a practical example, okay? So my business partner and I have been running workshops for public speaking for entrepreneurs so they can speak with confidence and charisma so they can attract more business. Now, I remember about a year ago, someone came to me and said, like if you did, for example, a workshop for single mothers or for some other vulnerable communities, then I could potentially help you get a grant for that particular thing. And that way you could run the course for single mothers, and then basically the government would pay for that. Now, I'm based in the UK, but I would like you to tell us, for example, taking this as a practical example, is this still the case that you would have to basically find a community that is like a vulnerable community that would be impacted, or not necessarily? And if not necessarily, give us an example. Taking this as a, how would this play out if I wanted to do this, let's say in the US? Let's say, imagine I lived in the US, and how would I, move forward with this plan of promoting public speaking training for entrepreneurs? That would be my ideal market. But if I have to do, let's say, single mothers, training, or children, or some other categories that are considered vulnerable, that could also be something that I could consider if the government was to provide a grant.
Right. So good example. And you said a couple of keywords there. Just focusing on a vulnerable community is very important when you're in the grants world. It's not just single mothers, but you certainly can focus on single mothers. As I said earlier, what is your mission? Your example is single mothers. You not only impact single mothers, but also the children of these single mothers, right? Helping these single mothers become entrepreneurs, helping the single mothers become successful, improve their own status. They're also becoming mentors to their own children. Thereby, you're indirectly helping the next generation become more successful. Those are the impacts that funders would love to help you make to your community. There are funders out there that look for leaders such as yourself, with the example that you've listed. Just fund that and make sure that you are serving your community with your knowledge and expertise, and that they are able to support you financially, that you're able to get paid while you're bringing your expertise to your community, and that maybe even this underserved community of single mothers are able to benefit from your expertise, while the funders are able to get the credit for this impact that you're making to the community.
Thank you. So is it a case that, for example, typically for grants funding, your business would have to serve a vulnerable community, or it doesn't necessarily have to be that way? For example, for me, I don't want to necessarily focus just on single mothers. I was thinking that I wanted to help in general entrepreneurs. Now, I am thinking that, for example, entrepreneurs that are first entrepreneurs that have never run a business and they want to be, let's say, aspiring entrepreneurs, would be not necessarily a vulnerable community, but still community, perhaps the community in general, and the government would have an interest in supporting, because they would need a lot of help. Considering the failure rate of most businesses and so on, and getting that support in terms of being able to speak, and being able to speak about products and services with charisma, with confidence, could actually bring significant outcomes for the economy. So the government, I think, would be highly interested in this. But would you say that generally you would have to pick, let's say, a vulnerable community? And if not, give us an example of some communities that perhaps are not vulnerable, but still of interest to the government or to other funders.
Well, it's funny, Lily. The vulnerable communities are actually nationwide. They're bigger than I think most of us realize. You mentioned, as an example, maybe entrepreneurs are not vulnerable. Entrepreneurs are actually part of our underserved community by far. 99% of entrepreneurs are considered small businesses. Small businesses are eligible for all types of certifications, also eligible for grants, just standalone grants, based on either their demographic, whether they're veterans, whether they're women of underserved communities, whether they're depending on their race. There are all sorts of categories that fresh new entrepreneurs and small businesses can qualify for. So ironically, entrepreneurs, 99% are part of the underserved community. And more than likely, most of us that are in business are here to serve a small community or a small business. That's part of what our mission is. So I would say 99% of us qualify, and our mission is and equals serving small businesses. And what you're doing with speaking to small businesses and helping them grow is you are reducing the failure rates of these small businesses, these entrepreneurs. You are helping the underserved community grow the economy around the community, and you're creating jobs by doing that. Each entrepreneur, the more they grow, the more jobs they are able to employ other locals into their business, right? So you're helping the community while they're growing, and they're also thereby helping the community. So essentially, grants just kind of grow.
Thank you. So let's take an example of a company that you have perhaps helped to get grants funding. Give us an example of what angle they kind of chose to focus on when it came to looking for the grants, and where they went to look for these grants.
So I think a simple example there is in the health area. So we have a pharmacy that provides help to underserved community. This community is a primary Spanish-speaking immigration community. So these are immigrants or refugees that speak Spanish first. Sometimes they don't speak English at all. They either have no insurance or they're underinsured. They may be legally documented or not documented at all. So all types of circumstances for this audience in this community. The particular client that I work with here receive grants in order to help the community's health and bring equitable health access to that particular community. Regardless of the status, right? We're all human, we're all beings. We require health services, whether we're here on refuge status or legal status. We have to help our fellow citizens in our community, and we have to make health equitable. And there are funders and founders out there that do support that mission. And so what we are able to do is grow that pharmacy and their services to serve this underserved community or not served community, and help make health access equitable to a bigger, larger.
Thank you. Give us some examples of the types of businesses that could qualify for grants funding. For example, let's say someone is doing, let's say, a jewelry business, and how can they make this the kind of business that could potentially get grants funding? Or, I don't know, a restaurant or a barber, or tell us the kind of businesses that perhaps are suitable for grants funding and the ones that you feel actually are very unlikely to get any.
So again, it's all about your mission, right? And how you're giving back to your community. I could name you a couple of businesses with missions that I think wouldn't qualify for grants, but then I could also turn around and tell you how I think their mission could change, or what specific project they could incorporate in order to get a grant. So we'll just take a restaurant, for example. I think that would be one example of where a standalone restaurant, just the mission of, hey, I'm here to make a food, I'm selling it for profit, and I want to make more profit. That mission alone may not qualify for a grant, right? However, we have seen, I think all of us probably have seen these restaurants out there where, for example, if you can't pay, you can still receive a meal. Or the mission is pay as much as you can and you can receive a meal. Those are the missions where it has flipped into helping the community. You may have an economy where everyone can't afford a meal, but this particular restaurant wants everyone to be fed, right? But they can't go out and do a food drive, or they can't go out and feed people outside of the restaurant. So instead, they're bringing people to them. This is where you could alter your mission a tad and still qualify for a grant. Same thing with a barbershop. You may have haircuts at $40, $50, $100, and that is a for-profit mission, right? I would say just that alone, you probably wouldn't get a grant or not many grant funds. But you offering reduced haircuts for underserved communities or your neighbors and your friends and fellow neighbors that can't afford a haircut, but maybe they have a job interview and they just have to have a haircut, and you're offering that either for free or a reduced service fee, that is worthy of a community mission and a grant. So there are ways to make sure that your mission fits what the founder or the funders are looking to fund.
Thank you. Where would someone go to find grants for their business?
So this is where you definitely can turn to the tools. I have tried very long lists of grant databases. There are a ton of grant databases you can go out and look for as Foundation Directory that you can actually access for free at your local library. There are several different databases that you can pay for a subscription for. What I have found works best is an AI deep search. Just create a prompt, and I have a nice AI prompt workbook available. If anyone wants to reach out at my website, they can access that. And those prompts will return a nice deep research of available grants that are currently available. Now, you do have to do a little bit of research in your field. So depending on what field you are, if you're a restaurant or a barber, depending on where you are, Atlanta or Chicago, massage your prompts to suit and fit your mission, and then dig into that deep research.
Thank you. Tell us the 3 case studies of entrepreneurs or companies you helped to get grants, and tell us how their mission either shifted or how you perhaps added an additional project they could add to their business so that they could become qualified to apply for a grant.
So we've already talked about one, right? The health mission of a pharmacy. Obviously, it's been their mission from day one is to focus on this unique audience of immigration and non-English speaking audience. So that's one case study where we were able to receive grants and grow into multiple locations. So those grew in from 1 city into 3 cities. Another case study is where we were able to convert a fleet of buses, gasoline or petroleum fueled buses, into electrical vehicles. So saving some emissions, into that spurted into the air, that is grant worthy. And so that's a federal grant. A lot of times, Department of Energy or the Federal Transport Agency will fund those type of grants. So those are multi-million-dollar grants, very large and a big undertaking there. So that's definitely something that communities usually need assistance with writing the grant and managing the grant afterward. But a good mission there, and just for the local community, saving some particle matters out of the air and some emission rates, reducing those. And then one of my favorite case studies is another immigration case study out of California that I'm working with right now. And we're working on communication with those immigrants that are newly arrived here in the United States. And this is regardless of which country you come from. But just making sure that those immigrants that arrive here feel comfortable at home and they get the information that is needed. Those type of services are generally not readily available to those type of new arrivals, especially not in their language, right? Very much. So this is a pretty large mission stemming out of California that we're trying to make nationwide. And it's just a big effort of outreach and communication nationwide to multiple languages and demographics of just different resources, whether it's health, childcare, workforce development, all those type of aspects that new arrived immigrants need to know about.
Thank you. Tell us some extra examples of other businesses that could add perhaps a project to their business so they can qualify for a grant. And what kind of businesses could they be, and what kind of project could they add in order to qualify?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about something me and one of my friends discussed. She's in the healthcare, well, I call it healthcare business, but it's more of the self-care, right? So it's a spa where you can go get your hair, nails, skin, all of the attention. Estheticians are there. So basically the model is for profit. It's a day spa, but offering these services again at a reduced price and focusing on the health of single mothers, job seekers, veterans, that those underserved communities that often get overlooked. That is how we converted her mission to serve the underserved communities and then get her grant ready to apply for other grants. And she also expanded that mission to teach others to expand on her business. So she's not only expanding her services, but also doing training and teaching others on how to implement those services. So those same veterans or single mothers or low-income ladies now can become trained and enter the workforce with those certifications and become licensed beauticians or cosmetologists or estheticians themselves.
Thank you. What are the top reasons why, when you apply for a grant funding, you don't get it?
Competition. Competition is the number one reason. I would say don't take it personal. It is not your mission. It is more than likely the fact that there are so many people out there, or so many founders out there that want to do good and that have good missions that need to be heard and need to be funded. But also that leads me to a recommendation that I want to make to everyone is to seek a partner. Don't do everything by yourself. There are a lot of team members and partners that you could seek out and actually complete your mission along with them. Instead of duplicating the wheel, you can gather a team or find a team. And this is just through your regular networking process and looking for somebody that does something similar or something complementary to what you're already doing, and partner with them and grow your team and then apply to grants. More power is in numbers.
Thank you. Tell us, if someone was to try to get grants funding, what would be like a process, like a step-by-step process? What would you say are the 10 commandments of you must do this in order to get a grant?
So definitely equity first, right? Think about who you're targeting your mission towards. Again, I've talked about your community so many times. Who are you? Who are you working for? Who do you need to make sure has access to either your services or what you bring to the table? If it's single mothers, if it's the veterans, if it's the homeless, that is what you need to make your number one reason why. That's your first commandment, right? Integrity. Make sure you keep your integrity. You cannot receive grants if you don't keep integrity intact. It's just always part of every grant is keeping integrity intact, whether it's a fiscal compliance piece or just making sure you roll out your program the way you intended it to be. And then just make sure you're serving your community before you sell to your community. This is part of, number one, where you're making sure you're targeting the right audience, whether it's your veterans, making sure you're serving them before you're selling to them. The money comes, the money will come and follow. If you're out for grants, community first, always. And then, back to my previous point, collaborate. Collaborate is important when it comes to grant funding, not competition. We love collaboration in our communities. Seek out partners, network with your partners, see how you can complement each other instead of competing with each other. And then always show your compassion. Your compassion is your strength. So if you have that passion for your single mothers, that should be always with what you lead with. And that should be your reason of why you're breaking barriers. Your story is why you're breaking barriers and you're helping to build the futures. So that's a few of my rules and commandments there to keep me straight in the grants world.
Thank you. Tell us how it works in terms of you being, let's say, the grant strategist or the grant partner for someone who is looking for a grant. How does it work? Do you get like a commission from the potential grant that will be given, or how does it work in terms of, let's say, someone collaborating with you in order to enhance their chances, their likelihood of obtaining the grant?
Yeah, I prefer the partnership method. So like I said earlier, more the collaboration. So if somebody really wants me to find them a grant, I prefer to partner on a particular project. And this means a project that has a big impact in the community, probably will affect multiple communities, not just, veterans or not just the single mothers, but just, all types of women or all types of veterans across the nation. So that's my preference of how to structure a program design. But I also do monthly retainers for those that just have, one mission in mind and a very stringent focus. For example, the pharmacy is an area where they knew what they wanted. They wanted to grow their locations rather more than their audience. And so monthly retainer is what we did there, and we worked that out. And we are growing their locations to 2 more locations, and that's based on a monthly retainer.
Thank you. What are the percentages in terms of the likelihood of someone getting a grant when they apply by themselves versus applying with you as a partner?
So I have not seen a whole lot of success versus applying by yourself. To be honest, not a whole lot of people share that information, so I don't know the honest truth about it, applying by yourself. I know from my experience that, again, the partnership is very important in the grants world, so applying by yourself is probably very low success rate. I know that my success rate in the grant writing world is 25%, which is pretty good success rate, actually. So out of all the grants that I submit, 25% of them are won, and that's actually a very good average success rate.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share about getting grants done for your business?
Yes, if any of this information resonates with you and you think you have a project or a program that you'd like to design or set up, I encourage you to visit my website, reach out to me and communicate. I would love to help out and find some funding for your project, help you design that project or just grow it, and just see what we can do together. And you've heard my missions and what my focuses are. I would love to expand on that.
Thank you. Tell us about how many projects did you apply for so far? And tell us about some of the most incredible projects that you're proud of. You've already said a few already, but tell us more.
Oh, God. I've been doing this for 18 years. I don't think I can put a number on how many. I would say maybe I can tell you over the last year, I've applied for 25 grants. And I would say probably one of the most amazing grant funds there that I've won is an enormous recycling grant. So one of those recycling grants actually was in the cement field. So it's concrete, actually, recycling concrete. So it enabled demolition projects to basically take their trash, right, what usually would end up in the landfill, to this location, this recycling location, and then we were able to pulverize that concrete and then reuse it. So it saved tons and tons of landfill debris, and then also reduced tons and tons of greenhouse gas emissions from having to produce new concrete.
Wow, amazing. Tell us where entrepreneurs can connect with you.
So my website is Grant Our Community. It's GrantOur community.org. And that's where you can certainly communicate with me, reach out to me, and you can read up on my current projects as well as check them out on their websites or donate if you'd like to.
Thank you.
Follow me for more AI productivity tools.